morning everybody. I am Ekta Rao from Himalayan School of Management Studies, Swami Ram Himalayan University, Jollygrant, Dehradun. Continuing our series of strategic management, in today's lecture, we will be talking about strategic management and strategic competitiveness. Basically, when we are talking about strategy, it's about dealing with competition. So, when we talk about strategic management in today's lecture, we'll try to understand what are the changes taking place in the competitive landscape because of which a lot of strategic flexibility is required, and firms have to incorporate that strategic flexibility in their strategic planning. So, a few important factors which we are going to take are globalization, economic volatility, technological advances, and we see how they are leading to hyper competition, because of which there is a need for new mindset in terms of strategic flexibility, global perspective, intelligence management, speed, innovation and integration. For any business firm, it's very important to understand the competitive landscape. And two major changes which are taking place in the competitive landscape are globalization and technology. When we talk about globalization, we are talking about emergence of a global economy. When we talk about technology, we are talking about the rapid technological changes which are coming up. One very important change which is coming up in the business environment and the business scenario is industry boundaries blurring. Let's try to understand the concept of industry boundaries blurring, that different type of industries like manufacturers, retailers, they are giving up the traditional ways of working and they are coming up with newer ways of working. Like for example, if we talk about computer networks and telecommunications, they have blurred the boundaries of the entertainment industry. There was one time when we talked about entertainment, it was TV. Today that same kind of entertainment is available in our mobile. So there is a kind of blurring of the industry which has taken place, and there are two industries which have basically merged with each other. Now when we are using strategic management, if we are using it effectively, then the likelihood of reducing the failures is more, because we are already prepared for the changes which are taking place in the competitive landscape. We were talking about industry boundary blurring. So, I'll try to give you a few examples through which we'll try to understand what is the meaning of this. See, consumer product companies are now thinking like retailers. What are they trying to do? So, if we have an FMCG company, what is it trying to do? They are trying to get closer to customers and their needs. Manufacturers are moving away from wholesale distribution in favor of selling directly, either online or in the form of brick and mortar retail stores, and giving the customers a more personalized experience. So, a manufacturer which was basically only into manufacturing of products is now thinking of becoming a retailer. If the manufacturers want to go in for this initiative, what is it that they have to do? They have to develop digital supply chain capabilities so that they can quickly react to the demand fluctuations which are there in the market. They also have to detect these changes through the social media, and they have to connect this data to their devices and to their products. So, basically what they want is they want real time information, and this real time information is going to create a responsive supply chain which is quickly adjusting the plans, which is rerouting the deliveries, modifying the production runs and offering individualized goods to serve the segments of all the customers. So, now the manufacturer becoming a retailer. So, there is a mix of these two industries, and this is what is known as industry boundary blurring. Now, the retailers are also trying to move into the logistics game. because they want to provide customer satisfaction, logistics is emerging as a very vital factor. Online retailers like Amazon and Alibaba, they are increasingly looking to upgrade their logistics operations to better meet the buyers' high standards for quick shipping. More and more traditional brick and mortar retailers are embracing in-store delivery and repurposing their retail outlets either partially or fully as distribution centers. Retailers are now investing into next generation digital logistics. They are gaining greater end-to-end control over their supply chains, empowering them to meet increasing consumer demand for fast and accurate delivery. So now the retailer is entering into logistics, the manufacturer is entering into retailing. So all these industries, the way they are functioning, it is going to change. So because of this strategy, they have to work for supply chain transformation. They have to enable 100% visibility into the inventory anytime and anywhere. And it requires modern retailers to focus on the segment of one in order to meet growing customer expectations for same day, even same hour delivery or pickup. So these are the changes which are coming up in the competitive landscape, that the manufacturer has to think like a retailer has to work into logistics. All these industries are slowly becoming one. So if a retailer does not focus on the supply chain and does not focus on the logistics, it will not be able to develop a competitive advantage and it will not be able to grow in that particular business. Logistics companies look to manufacturing for differentiation. So when we are talking about the logistics companies, they are now using 3D printers. So 3D printing has come in, and logistics are also going into manufacturing. So these are the different changes which are coming up. So one thing which we talked about is industry boundary blurring. This is one important change which is coming up in the competitive landscape. Another factor because of which what is emerging is hyper competition. In hyper competition, what is happening? The rate of competition is very high because of market instability and change, because of rapidly escalating competition, aggressive challengers and strategic maneuvering to establish the first mover advantage. The businesses want that we should be the first in the business so that we are able to have an advantage over others. And the two factors which are driving it are globalization and technology, and the tool which we have got to fix these two factors is strategic flexibility. So what are the changes which are coming up in the global economy? Goods, services, people, skills and ideas are moving freely across geographic borders. You know, it's not very difficult for people to move from one country to another. If we talk about the European Union, there is free movement of goods and services. New opportunities and challenges are emerging, and competitive environments are broader and they are more complex. So if there is a Mexican firm, it can face competition from a Brazilian firm, it can face competition from a Danish firm. There are different kind of things which are changing in the landscape. As I was just talking about the fact that the European Union has become one of the world's largest markets with 700 million potential consumers. China has now become the second largest economy in the world, which is surpassing Japan. And India is the world's largest democracy, has an economy which is now ranking 4th largest in the world. So when we are talking about the global economy, hyper competition is emerging. We are entering a new economic era in which global economy will be more volatile, and emerging economies like Brazil, China and India will be the major drivers of growth. So when we talk about globalization, what is basically happening in globalization and why is it important for us to know that? Economic interdependence among the countries is increasing. And because of this economic interdependence, there is free flow of goods and services and financial capital and knowledge across the country borders. Globalization is the product of a large number of firms competing against one another in an increasingly number of global economies. So, the rate of competition is high. Globalized firms are facing increasing complexities in their operations because people are moving freely from one place to another, goods and services. So, there is a lot of diversity which is there, which has to be managed. Globalization has also led to high performance standards in quality, cost, productivity, product introduction time and operational efficiency. These standards translate and impact domestic only firms as well. So, because of globalization, firms have to be very efficient because they can face competition from anywhere. So, even if there is a domestic firm, for example, if we talk about the Indian banking industry, in the Indian banking industry, the Indian banks, the public national banks also had to improve when the private banks came into India. There is free flow of resources among global economies, global sourcing, global purchasing and global forum for workers all are serving as a key source of competitive advantage for the firm. So, any firm should be able to get the resources at the most optimum cost from all over the globe. Firms cannot limit themselves only to one particular country. Firms must learn that in the 21st century, competitive landscape, if not exceeding global standards, should have the capability to earn above average returns. So, each firm has to actually go towards a global standard which they have to follow. When we are doing the strategic planning, it's important to keep in mind globalization. It's important to keep in mind the factors of globalization which we have to incorporate into the strategic planning. But yes, there are risks of globalization also, which also we have to be careful about. When we are talking about globalization, if we don't have proper knowledge about the global markets, then it's going to be dangerous for any firm. So, the firms have to get proper knowledge about the global market and then only they should incorporate them into their strategic plans. With globalization, firms may over diversify internationally, which can have a negative effect on the firm's overall performance. So, when we are doing the diversification, firms can try to group the different countries, some similar kind of countries, and try to produce products for them rather than over diversifying. It's critical for firms to compete globally to remain strategically committed to and competitive in both domestic and international markets. So, if we are going in for internationalization strategy, we cannot forget the domestic market. We have to take care of the domestic market also. So, this was all about the competitive landscape. We tried to understand few of the things which are important. We basically talked about globalization and its impact on the competitive landscape. Now, in the next lecture, we will be talking about technology and how the technological trends are impacting the competitive landscape and further how they have to be incorporated into strategy. Thank you.